get many, many, many cups of tea out of a very small amount of leaves if you use a small pot. Now, when you use a small pot, you have to keep adding water to the leaves. And each time you add water to the leaves, different chemicals in the tea leaves are coming out in different combinations. This is called the rhythm. And so you have this progression of taste. For example, when people read my book, I'll say that a tea tastes like seaweed, or a tea has some sort of floral aroma or something like that. And with the first infusion, you might not get that. And people will think, well, what's going on? Well, that's because there's this progression of flavors. And so the first infusion, the third infusion, if it's a good tea, the sixth, seventh infusion, they're going to taste different and they're going to smell different. And this progression of flavors and aromas, this is the rhythm of tea. And a good tea should hold up to multiple infusions, and also it should have a nice progression. It shouldn't just all sort of, just pour out at once. It should build, and you should have this sort of interesting sort of a symphony of tastes and aromas coming out at different times. You can learn a lot just by looking at the dry leaves. Is it in a tea disc? Is it a loose leaf? If it's loose leaf, are the leaves rolled into balls? Is it sort of dense, or are these very spread out? And this is going to affect the rhythm of the tea. For example, if it's rolled in a ball, as opposed to being just a regular, flat leaf, the flavors are going to come out at different speeds. And so you're going to get a very different sort of experience depending on the physical characteristics of the dry leaf. So that's basically how you would start. One of the most wonderful things about tea, as opposed to, say, coffee, which, I like coffee too in the morning. I like a cup. But coffee is, all the flavors are there. What you get is what you get. And the flavors don't change. Whereas in tea, when you're brewing tea, it's really almost like a living thing. You pour on the water, and there are a couple of hundred chemical compounds in a tea leaf. When these are exposed to heat and water, these various chemicals leach out of the tea leaf into the water at different rates. So that means that the taste and the aroma of the tea is constantly changing. So the rhythm of a tea is basically the progression of flavors and aromas that you get. And a good tea has good rhythm. So for example, a bad rhythm would be if you have a tea where all the flavor immediately comes out. So for example, if it's just a very, very simplistic sort of tea, and maybe it's sort of processed by crushing it into a ball so that all the tea oil is like on the surface. You brew the tea, all the flavor immediately comes out to the surface. You get it all at once. And then the second infusion, you sort of pour more hot water on the leaves, you don't get anything. That would be a tea with bad rhythm. A tea with good rhythm would be something where it's a good tea, so you can add like several infusions of water. You can keep adding hot water to the leaves. And every time you add hot water, you get a different experience. And so usually in a really good oolong, for example, a Taiwan oolong, usually the third infusion is considered the best. That's what most people would say. In a good tea, that would be the third. And you can keep going. If these are good leaves, you can keep going for 6, 7, 8 times, even more sometimes. And if you're drinking pu'er from Yunnan, you can just keep going almost infinitely. It just keeps on going. And so, for example, a good pu'er from Yunnan, it's really a robust tea, and so you can keep going. And every single infusion, you'll get a very different sort of experience in terms of aroma and taste, because different chemicals are coming out in different combinations. So that's basically what rhythm is.